The All Smiling Faces podcast is now sponsored by Tyre Spot, the Northeast's leading tyre supplier with branches across the region. Tyre Spot don't just do tyres, they cover everything from servicing to wheel alignment. They can handle every aspect of your car's maintenance. For more information, visit tyrespot.co.uk. Enjoy the episode. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Always Smiling Faces podcast on the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. We do apologise, first of all. We said we were going to go right the way through the summer, but we missed last week. We had other things to attend, but me and Decker are back this week. Bestie is still in Glastonbury, or en route
home
back from Glastonbury. I'm not sure if anybody knew, but Bestie's been in Glastonbury. He's told everybody about 20 times a day, I think.
He mentions it a lot on here, doesn't he?
He does.
Over the years, it's always come up in conversation.
And Mark just isn't here. We don't know where Mark is. We've lost him.
Can I find him now?
Imagine losing Mark.
Impossible.
Be the worst kid at hide and seek, wouldn't he?
100%. You'll find him anyway. But he's gone somewhere. I don't know. Hope you're right, though, Mark.
Yeah. Hi, Mark. Wherever you are, wherever you may be. Hi, mate. So, Decker. It's us two left holding the fort, the best two, holding the fort tonight, and we're going to put it down to the viewers and listeners, as always, since the start of the summer. So any questions, send them our way. We will just fill time in throughout this, but like I said, any questions, send them our way. We'll save them, and we'll come back to them throughout the show. First of all, like the video as well. Helps us out massively. So, Decker, Newcastle have finally, I'm just going to say finally, I'm using finally quite loosely because I think a lot of clubs started announcing deals before the transfer window had opened. It looks like we are on the brink of announcing our first transfer of the summer transfer window. And we have a young Italian, Tonali, is en route to Tyneside. A player that comes with a huge amount of potential. The likes of Italian pundits and fans of European football are waxing lyrical about this kid. And Newcastle have managed to take him away from his boyhood club. That in itself is a huge achievement.
Yeah, well, I think obviously we were linked with the lad from Inter at first. I remember, and then obviously it seemed a little bit, not too long after that, then all of a sudden we're linked with the guy from AC, and part of us still sitting there thinking, like semi-finals of the Champions League, and he's playing for his boyhood club, and are we even capable of being able to take him away from there? Like, do you know what I mean? I know we've came a long way, and I know we've got the money and all the rest of it, right? I know we've got Champions League football, but still at times I'm like, can we really get a guy from Milan? You know what I mean? And it looks like this one's going to be done.
You can have all the amount of money in the world, but if the player doesn't want the move, he's not going to accept it. And of course, that we're doubling his wage. Of course, it helps. Of course, it helps. Yeah. But I think the fact that it is his boyhood team, and he took a pay cut to go to Milan as well.
That's right. Yeah.
So he actually took a pay cut to do that. So
his dad's a fan and everything, isn't he? Like, I mean, it's just mental. Like, I'm surprised, to be honest.
A lot of people are referring to this situation similar to Andy Carroll, where Newcastle needed the money. Well, not necessarily needed the money, but Mike Ashley needed the money and sold Andy Carroll, even though Andy Carroll didn't necessarily want to leave the club.
Yeah, it's funny. I will reference this a little bit. So this situation in terms of, because we're linked with other players from Italy as well, I am getting a more adventurous, expensive version of what Ashley did when we went and invaded France. And we're signing Kabay and doubled his wage, and we're signing Debussy, and we're signing players from France because we knew it was a market that at that time we could buy players from that were within our budget that had quality. And I just felt there was a period just recently there we've been linked with 3 Italian players, all for clubs like Chiesa was another one, clubs that need money that will make us better. You know what I mean? And we can maybe attack them types of teams. And I feel like this Milan situation, they need money, right? They do.
Do you think that's a situation that the club have looked at and thought, these need a bit of cash?
I think so, And of course, it's not.
But that's wise.
It's not. Yeah, it's wise because it's not bargain basement. We're not buying someone for $5 million because we haven't got any money. But we're targeting. I honestly
vulnerable.
Yeah, we're looking at them going, we know that them need money. They've got real quality there. Of course, it's still going to cost her a pretty penny. But everything I'm reading about this Tonali, like, I mean, it seems as if 55 million or whatever score is actually cheap, really. That's what they're seeing in terms of what them value.
I think a lot of fans, not Newcastle fans, but fans of other Premier League clubs, have been getting the nick as in a bit of a twist that Newcastle are managing to get a player of this quality and potential to Tyneside. Let's remember, a lot of fans of opposition think that no player wants to move to Newcastle, especially not one moving from Milan to Newcastle. And the only place that they'll ever move to is London.
Yeah.
So they're not happy about that. Of course,
they'll hate it. They'll hate it. They will hate it, though, we're signing these players.
And so the fact that is happening now, and it kind of mean like that just gets blown out of the water completely. And to get those players, and we'll mention Bruno being one of them last season. Bruno, another player with huge potential. He takes, it's a chance, really. It was a chance that he took because Newcastle weren't in the position of what we are right now. It was a huge chance. And of course, Tonali's not taken that much of a risk in regards to opportunities that lied ahead of him, unlike Bruno, where Bruno was kind of a sidestep, probably maybe a step back at the time.
He
fell for the project.
Yeah, 100%.
Fell for the project, not obviously the success, which obviously Tonali now has European football and Champions League football in front of him. Is he going to be the catalyst once again, where we're looking at players last season? So we're looking at creating the spine of the football team. So we had Isaac come in, we had Bruno come in, we had Botman in. Is he another one to add to that mix where the club's thinking, buy young and keep these lads for as long as possible?
Yeah, 100%, yeah. And you can see the mould that we're going after. And I think it's telling that Ashworth was actually over there, do you know what I mean, trying to do this deal. And I think if he's getting involved as heavily as of course he's going to, because we're signing a player, right? But you just really have a sense, you believe, don't you, when we go for a player, the homework's been done correctly. They understand how he'll fit into the team, what he can bring to the team, what type of personality he is. And of course, like for us at the moment, you can only go off what we've bought.
Yeah.
And we've bought really well, like really, really well. So you think this is another, like Isak, for example, like he come in for a lot of money and a lot of people didn't know who he was. Bruno was obviously highly thought of, but again, we hadn't seen him play and he just fitted in brilliantly. And I feel that this, I mean, listen, I haven't watched him play weekly by any stretch, right? All I've been watching is the clips that's been put together, which sometimes, listen, Gabriel Obertan looked amazing on there, but you can see there's a player in there. Like he looks really, really good. And I think it's a position that we've wanted to buy. We've been saying we need that position to be filled, and I feel this is what they're doing.
So that was going to be my next question. So if you look at his career over the last couple of years, you can arguably say he's a defensive midfielder. But then on the other hand, he looks a bit like a box-to-box midfielder as well. So similar to what you get from, I would probably say, Bruno and Joe Linton at times.
Yeah, well, certainly Bruno. I think there's a great article in The Athletic where, because you see, when you look at footage of him, right, and you watch him play, I'm getting vibes of Pirlo a lot, an awful lot, in terms of his ability from dead set players, his passing ability, his range. But then there's the article in The Athletic, he's more like a De Rossi style player.
Yeah.
And he is a defensive midfielder, but as you say, though, has it in him, has the engine to be box to box as well.
And that's
just looks a lovely
signing
player
for this football club as well.
100%. Yeah, 100 engines massively important. And I think.
But we're talking about engine, Digger. Having an engine in the Italian league is going to be polar opposite to having it in the Premier League.
Yeah. And that's a really
good when he gets
here. That's a really good point, because, like, you know, like you've got, like they can beat you. Listen, everyone's saying, "Oh, well, he's playing the Champions League semi-finals." Absolutely right. I'm not taking that away from him at all, right? But to play 38 games in our league is different. It is different because the tempo, the speed, the demand, the physicality. It's just so much different. Whereas watching Italian football is more like a game of chess. At times, it's very slow.
Yeah.
But you know, the same argument's been thrown at so many other players that have managed to come over here and do it. You know, so
you know what will work in our favour? Bringing a player with experience, albeit a handful of years, if that, over to Newcastle. We've now got European football ahead of us. His knowledge playing in the Italian league will come in unbelievably handy for the likes of our coaches and things like that as well.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is with it's experience, isn't it, in terms of the level he's played at. So you think, I always look at that with players when you sign someone in terms of when you're saying they say a young player, right? I mean, you look at experience in terms of what intimidates them. I mean, he's played in Milan derbies. He's played in the Milan derby in the semi-finals of the Champions League. Yeah. It doesn't really get any bigger as a player, especially being a Milan fan. He's basically played in Newcastle Sunderland in the Champions League. Like the atmosphere, the occasion. He probably never played a better game, to be honest, in the rest of his life, really, than that moment. So, you know, he's represented his country at national level. He's captain in the under-21s.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? The experience that he's coming with, nothing will faze him. Like playing Liverpool away, it ain't going to faze him. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that's what another key thing is going to be. And I am very excited. Again, only from what I've read. I'm not an expert on him, far from it. But just what I've read in the clips that I've seen, he seems to tick everybody.
I know. I think we've got to throw a caveat in here and saying that me and Dick are fans of Newcastle United. We aren't knowledgeable in any leagues. Unfortunately, we don't have Mark here.
Do you know what? Oh, well, the Italian expert. You know, do you know what's really funny? When I was younger, right? Honest to God, I knew every player in every single league. I knew who was up and coming.
On Channel 4, mate.
I used to love it. Oh, he was the boy that. Sure was the boy that. But honestly, I used to buy. I remember read World Soccer magazine like from cover to cover. But I just don't have the time now to do that. And it's funny because we've sat around lots of times, right? We're like, right, what type of player do we want? We need a midfielder. Who do we buy? And we're scratching my head sometimes thinking, I'm not really sure who to get. Yeah. Because we always knew that Ashworth and his little army would just pull someone out of nowhere.
Bombing about his little Vespa across Italy, just getting anyone he wants at the minute.
But yeah, I mean, what's the comments looking like when has anyone seen anything good about him or are they excited or they're not?
Yeah, there's a lot of praise for him. And do you know what I think is going to be wise? We haven't done it yet, but I have been chatting to a podcast which is based in Milan. So AC Milan podcast, similar to what we do, but in Italian.
Surprisingly.
What's a United in Italian? Does anybody know what that is? But we're in talks with them, and as soon as the deal is announced, we'll do a podcast and get a bit more of a background and in regards to a sense of feeling from the fans that he's just left from that football club, similar as if it was us talking about somebody that's going to leave from our club. But I think it's just another step in the right direction for the football club. And there's a lot of people asking, why has the deal not been announced yet? Could be a number of reasons. We've got to remember at this moment in time, the club are going to be scrutinised massively for financial fair play. So it might be something just to do with the month that this deal is announced.
Yeah.
It could literally be anything. I don't think it's anything to worry about whatsoever.
I'm not worried.
All reports are saying it's done. They're just waiting for the announcement, really.
Yeah, I was reading a few things.
I've been checking the contract about 20 times. I've seen that.
There's like small details maybe within it, maybe that the player wants or reassurances or whatever. But I mean, it seems to me that it's far too long down the line that it's not going to go ahead. Like, for example, I don't think, I'll just throw a name out here. I don't think there's like a Real Madrid that are thinking, oh shit, Newcastle's about to sign him. We actually wanted him. Do you know what I mean? And we're now going to try and get him. I don't think it's anything like that at all. I think it's just, you know, they'll be making sure, as you say, we are very under the magnifying glass here of everything we do. And maybe they're just making sure that everything is absolutely correct.
Every single time anybody associated with the football club gets interviewed, that is the tagline. We have to be careful with financial fair play.
They say it all the time. Yeah.
Did you watch the video with the chairman?
I did, yes. I did. It was great.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it was good.
What's the overall sense that you get from it?
Well, I would say that, a real sense of professionalism in regards to the understand where they need to go and how they're going to get there.
Okay.
And I really got a great sense of how much he believed in. Now, this proof's in the pudding over time, mind you, but I got a real sense of how much he believes in the manager and in the staff that's around him. Really big that up, certainly early on in the video.
So, like, build from the ground up.
I really trust how and believes in him. And I think these are the things that you'll be held account for as time goes on, because of course we all hope it's just sky's the limit to keep going. But if there is a rocky patch to come, let's hope the words that he was saying in that video are something he stands by, that we believe in him.
That's something which we've said for a while as well. Like I saying that there will be a time where things go bad and obviously things don't look good for Eddie Howe. It'll happen. It happens to every single manager in football. And like you said, you just hope that the club don't pull the trigger too early.
You've got to, there's times we've sat around here, right, and for all, forgive us, I forgot. I think I'm going to say 5 times. Did we lose 5 times last season? Maybe 4. I think 5. I think it was. Anyway,
Liverpool twice, Man City once, Man You were away? Did we lose?
No, drew.
We drew there.
It's a terrible game. Like.
I think it's counting cup games.
No, I was just league. I think it's 5. Maybe we lost. Someone will probably comment straight away.
How many games did we lose last season?
It's 4 or 5, I'm sure, because at the time it was 3 for an awful long time.
Not many. That sounds good by saying that.
No, and that's what I mean. That like there was times last season, certainly on social media and stuff, when we had quite a lot of draws and stuff, and we're struggling to find goals, where there was people starting to say, "Oh, this isn't great," and blah 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 blah. And we're still at that point. At that point, I remember I'd only lost 3 games of football, man, and people were complaining. Now, qualifying where we haven't reached the final of a competition, the expectation does go up. It does, and it does worry us that if we have this run where we'll struggle. I know I mention this every week, and it sounds negative, and I don't want to be negative, but I just feel if we have this run, I really hope that they stand by him, and I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Don't get us wrong. But funnier things have happened in this game, like in game of football, when expectations are high and the money's there and they want to be doing well, it can easy change, But I don't know. I think what's really important is that we're just, as fans anyway, we understand, of course, we want to be in another final next year. Would love to get in the knockout stages of the Champions League, of course we would. But I still say that we just need to just enjoy this moment in terms of where we are and just enjoy what's to come in the Champions League and just enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? And you can see, though, from behind the scenes already, they're trying. The training ground's getting improved like we've asked for, what we've wanted to see. They're willing to try and obviously spend money to try and bring the right player, although they've got to be careful. But yeah, I think it's exciting, isn't it?
Of course it is. I just want to throw a quick question out to people who are watching. Can you hear us? Because the video is working, but I've just put my headphones in and I can't hear what we're saying. So somebody let me know straight away. Can you hear us right now? I'm going to carry on as normal, just in case you just can. Yes, people can hear us. Perfect. Thanks very much.
That's why he ran off. I was panicking.
It's all bad on one person, isn't it? So we just spoke about the position where he could possibly play in. Okay. So let's say if he comes in, and we wanted a midfielder to sit as a defensive midfielder, to then give the opportunity for Bruno to have more of a free role going forward. Do you think that'll happen? And if so, what formation will the midfield look like? Because the player's going to have to drop out, and which player is that going to be? Now this has always been up for debate, hasn't it, and a concern, because I don't think we'll ever move from 4-3-3. I think that's what we are. Well, within games and within moments will change. But I think in terms of what we are and what we're built to be is 4-3-3. Now, what's that? Just said Sally that could hear.
Oh, good comment. If he comes in and plays where we think he's going to play, say number 6, and Bruno moves further up the field, for me, then that means it's either Longstaff, or Willock. However, unless he decides to play Joelinton out left, which I just cannot see that. But let's say you play Joelinton out left, you might have a midfield of.
Can you not see that because you're a fan of the attacking winger, as in a more dynamic, get to the line, get the ball in?
I am, yeah, and this isn't against Joelinton.
Pace on the wing.
I love pace on the wing, and of course, I'm not going to go on it, but you know about Maxi and my feelings towards him. But not just him, though. I still think Gordon's going to have a huge season. So I think Gordon's going to play an awful lot over that side. He does. And I think the one thing I would say definitely about him is, for a fact he wants it as well. He's so hungry and desperate to make it work that I think he will have a good season. And I think he'll be playing a lot as well. Maybe in the replacement of my mate, but so be it. That is what it is. But if that's the case, then my midfielder, I think of Tonali, Bruno, and Joelinton. But then I think, you kind of drop Willock though. Willock's mint. Do you know what I mean?
Like, on the other side, I'm thinking you kind of drop Longstaff.
Oh, okay.
Because there was games last season where Longstaff wasn't playing, and we so unbelievably missed them.
So then I'm thinking, can Tonali not do that?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. You can't move forward with the football club if you don't bring this sort of talent in and let the rest of the lads drop out of the team. I need to stop being so connected to these players and thinking, well, if a better player comes in, you're going to get binned, really. You're going to get dropped.
Well, Longstaff is defied odds from the start, really, in that regard, because I think probably I said this, to be fair, other than the time under Rafa, where he had that 10, 12, maybe 14 game streak where he's red hot, £50 million Man United, blah, blah, blah. He's really struggled when he came back from injury. He never looked the same player again, right? And then when we got taken over and all the rest of it, I don't think any of us thought that he would become a part of that, certainly as much as he is now. And I totally agree. And everyone's always said, oh, we've missed him when he hasn't been on. But I'm just going to be honest, that if we're going to become what we want to become, a regular top 4 team, Sean Longstaff ain't going to be there.
I'm just being too connected and too tied to the football
club. You've
got
to remember, though, that doesn't mean, just because I'm saying that's me starting 3. Longstaff will probably play every single game. Maybe not from the start, but I reckon he will come off the bench and play half an hour every game.
There's going to be enough games for them all to play.
Absolutely.
And then some.
Absolutely. So he's still going to be a huge part of the team, or the squad, sorry. But as I say, I mean, it could be Tonali, Longstaff and Bruno. There's nothing to say it wouldn't be, but then you leave Mullick out and perhaps Joe Linton out as well. Now that's the thing though, isn't it, about a squad where you're like mint, we're having to leave out players and you've got great options.
Eddie Howe's always said that he wants 2 starting 11s.
Yeah, well,
and
he's the dream.
He's en route to getting that, really.
It's the dream. That's what Man City's got. And there's a few times you see their team and you're like, oh, they haven't got Bernard Silva on, they haven't got Grealish on, but that's what every player has to understand, that you might not play every single.
And just to clarify, a couple of people that have commented in there, we're not saying get rid of Longstaff. We're both saying that we want Longstaff to feature a huge amount to this football club. He has to, because he's one of the homegrown players.
Yeah.
So Longstaff, bigger Longstaff's not going anywhere. Longstaff's gone. I think he got binned off and went with Ibiza straight away.
But this is my thing about Maxi as well, right? And I don't know how on earth I've got.
How you managed?
I know.
We're talking about homegrown players. I know. You've got onto Maxi,
but this is
he lives in Jasmine.
This is when I get annoyed though, when people are like, so the people just look at that starting 11 sometimes and go, "This is my starting 11, so we no longer need him anymore." What an unbelievable, ridiculous thing to say that is.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by this midfield. Just in my mind, off the cuff now, saying it, Longstaff isn't in my midfield 3, right? Now, 10 games in, I might be like, God, what an idiot. Longstaff should be in every week. That could be the case. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't mean Longstaff's not going to have a huge part to play. Whereas when we're saying Gordon, everyone's going, oh, that's it, Maxi's days are numbered. Yeah. Why would that be? Because Gordon's not going to play 65 games a season for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to have options all over the field. Surely.
And there's a great shout here, and I'll put it on. It's from Buck Tizer that says, I reckon Longstaff will start the season. Tonali will be worked in gradually. Just like what Eddie Howe has done with almost everybody.
Oh, yeah, almost everyone. He has done that. And again, we've been fortunate enough to be. Well, the thing is, it depends if this lad comes in soon, he's going to get a full pre-season. Whereas you remember Bruno arrived in January where we're on a great run of form and we didn't have
I think the difference is it's a full pre-season, but not in a competitive Premier League game.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a couple of shouts saying that maybe Tonali is going to be the legs when Longstaff isn't playing. But once again, we'll go back to the point where there's quite a comparison, a huge difference between the pace of Italian football and the Premier League. You can't just chuck him straight in there and go, do what Longstaff does. Cover every blade of grass, because I don't think you're going to get it.
Yeah, well, true, but there's a way to... The quality will always... if you've got the quality, you don't necessarily always have to.
Easy,
exactly. You read the game in a certain way and you cut the passing lanes out and et cetera, where you don't have to charge on the field like a nutcase. Not saying Longstaff does that. I'm just saying you don't have to run like that. But it's food for thought. Longstaff's still got a massive role to play for years to come, I think, because Eddie Howe believes in him so much. We, as fans, we believe in him. And we know when he's not on, the difference that you see in the field.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
We have had a donation, and it is from Paul Flanagan Photography, who sends in $9.99. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Paul.
Thanks, mate.
He says, he's got a question. He says, do you think we'll ever get used to these huge transfer fees and just take it all for granted? I honestly hope not. Everything's just still doesn't feel real. I'm the same. It's mad that we've gone from just a few years ago not paying £1 million loan fee for Chowdhury from Leicester, to then spending 30 million, 50 million, 60 million pound on potential. That's what we've been signing on. Young players with potential. We're not going for these Galactico signings that have got a proven track record for them.
Yeah. Well, you look at Isak signing. That was a lot of money, That was a lot of money. And Bruno was 40 million or whatever, and he again was potential. Botman was a hell of a lot of money. You know what I mean? And he's been absolutely outstanding. It's funny, isn't it? Because you look at Man City, right? They've just won the treble there, and like, kind of joke on at times that you see the atmosphere in the stadium, and it's like, oh, they've scored. And that is always my fear. Like, is the more you get successful, the expectations. Oh well, we're playing such and such, it'll win 5-0. And you just, do you know what I mean? That sort of feeling goes because you're just expecting it. So when the next January window comes, we're going to buy some at 50 million, but that's what we expect.
Do you think,
it is awful to think that.
Do you think that'll ever happen with us? I think
I do think a little bit.
Well, I think it's a generational thing. You've got to remember Man City's takeover was what? How many years ago now? So you're looking at their fan base now, and obviously the younger ones that, let's say, were teenagers when that takeover went through. They're now obviously hitting whatever age and coming in adulthood of following this football team. They're used to that. For us, I don't think we'll ever get used to Newcastle paying these fees and being competitive in football.
Okay.
But I think our kids will
yes.
probably just obviously go with it now and think, Newcastle are mint. Then it'll probably get the point guard. We didn't win this game. Shite.
Yeah, well, to be fair, we've kind of had this twofold in a sense, because obviously I was the Keegan era growing up, and I was going to the game with my dad when I was 9, 10, 11, and we were just humping every single thing in sight, literally. It was amazing. And then we were absolute dog shit, to be honest, for so many years. And I just never, ever thought I would see them days again. And I think that's why, for me, it's been this like sort of full circle of being, in my opinion, at the time, just invincible as a kid. Invincible. No one could beat her, even though we didn't win anything, but it felt that way. And no doubt, as you say, our kids, your kids, and they'll be going to the matches now like I did as a youngster, going, God, we're going to beat everyone. So it's a good point. It's a good point. I think there is always people in the ground, though. Everyone sits around them where they just sometimes love to be negative. No matter what.
There's a few of them,
and it really pisses me off big time. I can't stand that. Like, why would you want to pay that amount of money and go and support the team you love and just be negative from the minute go?
It's one of my greatest feelings in St. James's Park, that when obviously you get used to the people that you got a season ticket around, not friends with them, you just get used to hearing the noise coming behind you. You get used to, he's back again. You don't turn around, you just hear it somewhere. Yeah. You don't know what this bloke looks like, what this woman looks like. You've got no idea. But when they've sat and slagged a player off for games and games, then that player scores.
Amazing.
I love that feeling.
Yeah. You must feel like that with Mark a lot sometimes. No, I'm joking.
Every week I feel like with Mark.
I'd go on a bit of a different chat here, but there was someone behind me used to just slag Robé off constantly. Like someone else could do a bad pass, but it'd be Robé's fault because he didn't come to show. Ridiculous comments all the time, and he used to just score rakers. Like, and when he used to score, I just wanted to stun him. Like, I just literally just wanted to brain him, because I was just like, why would you? I just don't get why some players get not just players as well as like for example, the worst thing ever, right, is when and they say they just overcook a pass in and goes out for a throw in. That horrible, for fuck. Yeah. I hate that, honestly.
The dummet noise.
Some people deserve it, right? But anyway, sorry, I'm a bit of a tangent there. But yeah, expectations, though, I probably agree with you there that our kids are going to see something which they'll come to expect. Yeah, maybe. Whereas us, I still can't believe in the Champions League, even though I sing it every day when I wake up. You know what I mean? I still can't believe that. And that's what is amazing. Like, it is.
It's just mad, like, having this conversation.
Yeah, especially now.
I know things aren't guaranteed.
Yeah,
I know they're not. I honestly, I'm so excited for the season coming up as well, but I'm also shitting my pants for that season in case we don't do as well as what we have, because I know for fine well expectations already changed.
I'm very nervous. I'm not going to lie. I'm excited, of course, but I'm nervous because.
And I tell you what, right? I haven't told anybody that's watching this. Everybody on the Gallowgateshots and involved with Gallowgateshots knows this, okay? And I'll share a secret with you.
Oh, it's like Diamond Dogs, this.
I know. I'll share. I'll share a secret with you. So the reason I'm telling you this is because we haven't gone ahead with it. Okay, so listen in. We were approached by the producers of the Amazon documentary, and they wanted to use a couple of segments of a couple of our podcasts. And the segments which they used could have been taken out of context massively, hence why we didn't allow them to use footage of the podcast. They tried the best to get it. Numerous emails coming across, but we've point blank refused to let them do it, because it was around about the time just before we got was it a draw v Wolves where Maxi scored that screamer? Was it 1-1 that game?
Yeah, last minute.
So I think we on a bad run of form after the World Cup. and I'm saying bad run of form. It wasn't horrific. We just couldn't.
Drawn on again.
Yeah, we just couldn't get 3 points. Yeah. And the sentences which they were using what I think was Decker. Decker said the sentence was, no matter what anybody says, you can't disagree that expectation will change. Expectation has changed at this football club. And there was a couple of other sentences which were similar. And I thought, if that gets used on the documentary, that one clip only, and it's one of our voices over the top of that, that could do more damage to us as to Decker. Decker could be like a walking meme, like them two Macam lasses. And I thought, it's not worth it. So,
well, I appreciate that.
I know I could have proper stitched you up there, like
because no, I think it's a really good point you made though, because it wasn't. You weren't being malicious. We're having a conversation saying that. Yeah, and that wasn't my opinion. I was saying people's opinion, people's expectations would have changed because we're winning every single game in sight at that point. Do you know what I mean? And then we're on this bad run of form. I wasn't sitting there saying we're absolutely shit now. It's a disgrace. That wasn't what I was saying. Yeah. But again, taking 5 words or 6 words can sound bad. You know what I mean? And I get that. No, it's
so I thought, yes, we could have done it. We could have made a big cash off it, but we thought it's not happening. Not happening. It just wasn't worth it for 5 minutes of fame. So yeah, there's a little secret for you. Decker is officially not yet.
I'll be all right. Yeah.
A walking meme, not yet.
Aye, but no, I think it's again about being nervous in next season. Like, of course, there's a huge deal of excitement, but I think why the Champions League to me meant so much. One, it was earlier than I ever expected. I always thought we'd get there eventually. You know what I mean? But I don't think we'll qualify for it next season. So that's already me sounding negative about next season, right?
Until we win it.
Well, until we win it, yeah. That sounds ridiculous to say because people will be thinking, well, why are you being negative? And I'm not being negative or doubt. It's just me gut telling us, I don't know if I'll qualify. It's so hard to finish in that top 4. Like. It's so difficult. And that's why it means so much now, because I feel it's an unbelievable achievement that what we've done. And hey, of course, I hope we'll go far in it, and I hope we'll finish 3rd, 2nd, win the league. Of course I do, but I'm just trying to be realistic. You know? And I'll not be here complaining if we're sitting 8th, 9th. Well, I'd like to be top 6.
Like a good jump from 8th to 9th.
Yeah, I think you've still got to be in the top 6. Like, I have to say that you've still got to be in the top 6. Not from game 1, but you've got to be in and around them numbers. You can't be 9th next season. Like that won't cut it. Like,
I think top 5 get Champions League next season, so it'd be a bit of a help.
But yeah, that's ridiculous.
I'm not
a fan of that. But anyway, we'll take 5th if we get in. But I'm not a fan of that. Like, I think it starts to diminish the competition. But anyway, yeah, I just think it's going to be tough, and we're going to have we'll have some amazing moments, amazing memories, but we might have a bit of a tough run. We just got to stay loyal, stay with the team, stay where they are and the staff, and go from there.
One of the things which I want to chat about tonight, and something that we're just being linked with just before we press live there, and it's Southampton's right back, Livramento, and he's out for majority last season, ACL injury, which he picked up in the 2-2 draw against Brighton. The season before, he had an absolutely fantastic season for Southampton. Obviously, it is Trippier's position, but once again, Eddie Howe wants 2 starting 11s. What does that mean? So let's say if we do bring him in, I think Newcastle want to pay 15 million for him. Southampton want 30 million. They're not going to get 30. And I think apparently Newcastle are trying to use Ryan Fraser as part of the bargaining on this one, which would probably be a good move for,
all right. Very good, yeah.
For both clubs.
Yeah.
So if we bring him in, okay, so that's another right back. Do you then think Ashby goes out on loan? So the kid that we got from West Ham. So he goes out on loan. Then that leaves you with, obviously, Trippier starting, Livramento back up. What happens with Kraft and Manquillo? Manquillo he'd be gone, I would have thought.
Yeah. And I'm fine with that as well, by the way. You can't have 4 right backs. You know what I mean? As much as you might want to have a big squad. Manquillo could play left at a dramatic. But I think the problem you've got, when you've got someone who you love that's starting every week and you really believe in, when you sign someone for big money, because if it is quarter £30 million you for a right back, that's big money, like regardless of what you think, how much money we have. You feel a bit like, whoa, we don't need to strengthen that position. Yeah. You automatically feel that way, but I think you've got to look for the future and you've got to look at strength and all of it.
You're only one injury away from being on the bones of your arse in a position.
Yeah. And the thing is with Trippier, he is so important to us because when you watch a play, man, almost everything goes through him. It seems to start with him. Almost every movement between him and Bruno. Anyway, I am a big fan of him, but obviously he's had a nasty injury. That lad, it was ACL, wasn't it?
ACL, yeah.
That's a nasty injury, but I suppose that other players have come back from that. Like
he did make an appearance towards the end of the season.
Yeah. It's funny actually. They have seen quite a bit of him, obviously, with being in our league, of course, at the time. And he has certainly the year before he looked really good. Like I used to say him and think, God, he's some player I'm like. So I'm not against it. It's just I understand why people might be thinking, oh, well, we've got a great right back there already. I understand that, but definitely Ashby would be gone loan. Sorry, he'd be on loan, and maybe you'd have Kraft as your third choice, and then that's
and do you know what it is? Kraft, before he picked up the injury, what was his injury? Did he break his? No, it wasn't a break of the foot. Was that not ACL as well?
It was bad.
It was bad.
Knee or something.
Wasn't it?
He broke his leg on knee.
He was doing all right before that.
Brilliant, really well, really well. Because he was another. He was another
one.
From
he was got in that position. 2 games, successive games, he got in the same position and skied the ball from about 4 yards out.
He started doing that. I remember Norwich away did it twice, and that was almost very early on in his days. But he was another one where no one believed in him at all.
Yeah,
and he improved massively when Howe came in. Another player who really looked a player. I remember I played it was Arsenal at home last year of the season, and God, he was absolutely at them on the right hand side. And I thought, God, I can't believe how far he's come. And that was in the same mold as with Joel Intons and everyone else who were sort of wax lyrical about. And it was a real shame that injury came around. Obviously, we had Trippier there, so it didn't matter. But again, though, how is he going to come back? Because that's a long time to be away, isn't it?
Yeah.
You never know how someone comes back from an injury. Look at how long it took Sean Longstaff to come back from the injury he suffered at West Ham. Obviously, maybe different coaches and different mentality of training and that in them days. But I know it'd be an interesting one. But I think that would be if we did sign him. I mean, how would I know we'd link to you, but how is it work on for him? Like, is it? I've only just seen that.
It's pick and pace, like.
Is it?
Pace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've got no problem with it because I still think it is because Trippier's getting on, right? You know what I mean? And you'll definitely get a few more seasons out of him without question. You will. But again, he ain't going to be able to play every single game, so you're going to have depth.
El Grande Salmon has apparently heard that Manquillo is going to Al Hilal for 120 million.
That would be lovely. That would be lovely.
Like, what is it with all these players going to the Saudi league? It's like the Chinese league on steroids.
Yeah, it is. It's always your worry though, because I was very disappointed when Ruben Neves went there. Very, very disappointed because I thought, only a couple of weeks ago he was like, "I had my dreams to play in the Champions League." He literally said that while he was wearing a Wolves shirt, and I was, you know what I mean. And then he's just done off there. I know everyone's got a price, but yeah, it was a bit poor, and I do think they've got a lot of power. Like I know China league was buying a lot of older players. Kante is gone; he's getting on a bit. Me worry is if they start buying literally everyone. You know what I mean? Yeah. It is a concern. Like,
did you think because there's a lot of people thinking that now because this is happening in Saudi and the Saudi Pro League that all these big names are going over there. I'm saying all of these big names isn't. There's a handful. Yeah. It's not all of these big names. It's not. I'm tore the Premier League apart, and they'll never do that. A lot of fans have been saying, and once again, it's fans of opposition teams are saying they're clearly not interested in Newcastle United anymore and bringing players into Newcastle. But then we're going to buy a player for 50, 60 million pound. Is that just complete nonsense?
Oh, of course it is. Absolutely. They're trying to build their entire league like that to make your league successful and to make the brand successful. It's going to take an awful lot more money than what it will for us because we are what we are already. And of course, they're still spending a lot of money. Clearly, they have on infrastructure and everything else. But they're trying to actually make their league attractive, which is going to cost them absolutely. But look with the golf, for example. I'm a huge golf fan, and they spent more on Dustin Johnson and Phil Mickelson than they did buying us on 2 golfers.
I've meant to ask you this question, and I'll ask you now. Sorry, people, if you're not interested in my in-depth question. But so what was the issue with the golf? Because the Saudis bought the golf, but there was X amount of players that had refused a deal or something the year before or something. Give us that in 30 seconds. What happened?
Well, so basically, the PGA is its own entity, right? And the Saudis league, our chairman, started something called the Live Golf. That was a completely different thing. And similar to the Saudi league, they needed their league the Live Golf to be attractive. So they just started signing PGA players.
Okay. So they go on tour with them.
PGA. Can't play in the PGA.
Right. Okay.
At that time, they couldn't. But then moved across for hundreds of millions. I think Dustin Johnson got paid 200 million cash, man, to go. But Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods got offered $1 billion.
Yeah.
900, well, it was close to $1 billion, and he refused it, not to join them. Now they are joined.
So they've merged.
Now, of course, Rory and all the ones that rejected mega money are like, you fucking joking. I could have made $300 million overnight, and in 5 months' time, I would have been playing together anyway. So that's why they're annoyed, which I can understand as well.
Okay. So it's like when WCW and WWE merged.
Yeah. Well, that's why in the golf, they should just have that.
Yeah.
Like just Monday Night Raw.
Monday Night Raw.
Yeah. That's what it should be like. Yeah. But, but sorry, the point I was trying to make is like the money that them spent on the golf, I mean, eclipses what they've done with us.
Yeah.
But there's different rules in place, isn't it? They can't do that with us. Whereas in golf, they can do whatever they want. Literally can spend. They're going to give Tiger Woods $1 billion, man. There's no financial penalty, so it's totally different scenario.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's have a look.
Imagine turning down $1 billion though.
Then the next
it's
week,
insane, isn't it?
The next week being like, oh, I'm going to work for them anyway.
I'm back anyway.
Right, this one is from Josh Stonkton, and as always, Josh has sent in a £20 donation.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Josh. Appreciate it massively.
Josh,
Hope you're well, mate. He says, "Hi lads, hope you're both well. I've been watching some of the old AWSF episodes from the COVID season, including Bestie and Decker's interview with Harry Cosameo. That was the interview about the book.
It was the book. It was, yeah, it was.
And he says, I thought that was brilliant, so much that I'm going to buy the book.
Oh, man, nice one, mate.
It is a great book. It really is. Harry's done really well.
One of my good friends is on holiday the day. I went abroad and he texted us, and it was a chapter of that book. And I said, oh, you need to go and watch. Not plugging the channel now. I just said watch it because the actual guy wrote the books on it, so it's good.
Yeah,
and he's commenting the same.
So I think, to be honest, I think that's something which we'll probably do more of next season. Get the likes of guests like Harry and somebody that brings something different and that's basically has something that they would like to promote as well. Because that episode went down really well. It did. It was you and Bestie, wasn't it? Because I think Bestie knows him.
Bestie knows him, man. That's right. Yeah, and he obviously wanted to promote his book and that. And he sent us a PDF copy at the time. It was because of COVID. We didn't actually meet him technically, and I read it as fast as I could because we're interviewing him like in a week's time. Brilliant book though, brilliant. A great era of the club that for me. Sorry, I'm eating chocolate. Obviously the Champions League.
At what point did you think it was wise to put some chocolate in your mouth?
I didn't know how long you were going to talk for, so I thought I can gag. But I bet that whole bar, you seen the size of this bar of chocolate? Absolute hell on with that, like. It's just lovely though. Fruit and nuts, lovely, I apologise.
Still going.
I am, yeah.
Right. I go to the next one. In fact, we finished there. I can't remember what the question was. Oh, about the book.
The book now, just about the era of that book's. When Robson came in, we were as a whole fan base in the club, we were low, very very low. And what he did, and he reunited a bit like what I'd say very similar to what Howe's done. Very similar in terms of how one man. I appreciate obviously. It's been slightly different because we've had new owners, of course, which absolutely helped. Jesus, of course it did. But Robson came in, nothing really had changed that way. There was just him that changed that entire feeling of the club. It was an unbelievable moment that when he come in. Amazing time.
Fish and Rogers told me to tell you that Liv didn't screw Rory. Rory screwed Rory.
Well, a lot of people.
Does that mean something to you?
Yeah. That's, I like Rory, to be fair. Like, I do feel from him a bit. But Jules, he did bang the drum a bit too much, I think.
Jules has also said, going back to my earlier post, can we get Drunk and Decker back in that swinging chair as a series? Do you still have that chair in the sitting room? Is it still in the sitting room?
I do actually. Well, I do still have it. Yeah. I don't really drink in the house anymore, if I'm honest with you. I don't
do podcasts anymore.
True. It's the only time I drink. I've got loads of Guinness there. I just don't. I don't know why I never touch it. I only see me drinks. I've got like a drinks thing on the side there in the dining room. It's got whiskey out. Like honestly, I've got £100 bottle of whiskey. I don't touch it. I just never drink in the house. I don't know why.
To be fair, I wouldn't want to drink £100 worth of liquid either.
Like paint stripper as well. No, but you're right though. I think we should get them daft old sort of COVID day ones back and just get drunk.
The issue that it has that you used to knock me ill swinging in that chair.
Swinging that chair, I can't help it. I get
more cans that you had, the more you used to swing.
Yeah. I tell you the one that sticks in my head an awful lot is the one. I think it was the Christmas movie one. Is it rank these Christmas movies?
Yeah.
And it was when Mark got that film totally wrong.
One.
Hey, one of the best. I go back to that sometimes, and I am absolutely crying, laughing at that.
Yeah.
It's really funny, that one.
There's been quite a few moments where
nothing to do with football.
It's me and you that have just gone.
Yeah, gone.
We saw each other laughing. We've gone.
The thing, I think what makes us laugh even more is Mark. Just no emotion,
so adamant that he's right.
and they'll just keep going and going, and we know you're way off here, like, and it just gets funnier and funnier. It's great times.
Right, let's go through. Jules says a Christmas movie one was epic.
It was mint.
Honestly, we had some good laughs doing the Christmas stuff. We really did. Yeah. Right, this next one from Josh Stockton. He sends another £5 in, so thanks very much, Josh.
Yes, Josh.
This is a question this time. He says, if our takeover got accepted in 2020, like our owners wanted, where do you think we'd be now? Do you think we'd have a trophy in our cabinet? It's hard to say because do you know what it is? I'm going to say this word for lack of a better description. I don't think we're lucky last season in regards to how well we did, but we were lucky that there were certain teams underachieved massively last season. Liverpool struggled, Chelsea struggled, Spurs, fucking hell, God knows what happened to them. We're lucky in that aspect, but that's not taking any credit away from what we did in that season because we did unbelievably well and we deserve to finish where we did. I just think it's very hard to say what could have happened and what could have been because everything's fell in place now with the arrival of Trippier. Mm-hmm. What would have been our Trippier back then?
Yeah, it is very hard to say. Well, how probably wouldn't have been the manager. It's very difficult to say, to be honest. And I agree with you totally. And I've said this. It's the thing is the comment, and you've said it, you've nailed it for me in terms of you look at how Chelsea's performed and Liverpool. I mean, God, Liverpool were poor, and they were right up our arse. Right up our arse. So however good you think our season was, I actually thought Liverpool were dreadful for most of the season.
They started sneaking up,
we're still right behind me. That proves just how hard it is to finish in that top four. I didn't expect it to be where we are now. So if we got taken over the year prior to that, I still wouldn't have expected to be where we are now. That's the truth. I really wouldn't. I think all of us were hoping a decent cup run, finishing the top 10, 8th. So that's what we were hoping for this season. We've made a final and finished in the top 4. It's just ridiculous, really.
Somebody commented on one of my tweets from 2017 yesterday, and it was an article which I had posted, which was the first time that Amanda Stavey's name had been mentioned with the football club. Mm-hmm. And it was something like Amanda Stavey is getting together a consortium to buy Newcastle United. And I had just tagged it something like, can't wait to win the Champions League in 2021 or something ridiculous like that. Yeah. It's just mental how these things happen and pan out over the years. And that's 2017. She was first mentioned.
I know, and it took a while. I remember she's having a tab outside that restaurant with Ashley,
curry,
the curry place, and then it looked like it was going to happen, and it wasn't. And it's been a roller coaster ride, hasn't it? But God, you've got to admire what's the word? Patience, drive. I don't know. I've had the right words.
Resilience.
Resilience. You think that long trying to buy us? It's unbelievable, really. Forever grateful. That's for sure.
Some people might call her a nutcase.
Possibly, but she must what she must be thinking now, with what's happening.
Well worth it.
God, it's unbelievable, isn't it? I still say what they paid for was very little. Very little.
Scored, man.
Yeah, they really did score. And
those people out there saying that it was too much. Crazy. Next question is from Freddie Costanzo that says, is Hayden still on a contract with us or has he joined Norwich permanently? I'm pretty confident that he's a Newcastle player and he went on loan to Norwich.
Yeah, he did.
Then he picked up the injury early on.
He didn't play much at all, did he? He's had a very poor time down there. So he'll return. As far as I'm aware, he'll return. But of course...
he's probably one of the ones that will be having a meeting when the time comes with Eddie Howe saying, nice to meet you, Sunshine. We're going to be looking at something else.
It was nice because I'm sure Hayden commented that Howard rang him a few times as well, just like he rang Kieran Clark when he was away and still checks in. You think of everything that he's got to go on, he still has the time to ring people who are out. And it's an unbelievable bloke. But you would expect Hayden to come back, shake his hand and see you later. That's what you would think anyway. So. If someone will have him, mind. I don't know, he might be out of contract coming up, but that injury was bad.
We've got Jeff Hendrick as well, man. He's still Newcastle player, isn't he? I'm sure he is.
I don't know, I think he went permanently, did he?
Did he?
I think he did, in January.
Jeff Hendrick was on loan as well. Did he go to Reading? QPR.
Yeah, QPR it was, yeah.
Somebody tell me, is Jeff Hendrick a Newcastle player? I'm sure he is,
It's like a bus turning around him and he's so slow. And I was watching the championship game. I was just on the telly running and he was playing. Just so slow, man. Unbelievably slow. Like Sunday league stuff, you see, man. It was so slow.
Yeah, apparently it was just a loan move. So Henrik is still a Newcastle United player. They've got some players to shift, like, haven't they?
There's a lot of work ahead, like there is, because for all we all want to buy the world and all the rest of it, but you've got to shift a lot of players, like which they will. They'll be working hard, probably tirelessly, to try and get rid of these players. But some, though, if they have got some time left, you might, for example, Hendrick. I don't know how long he's got left, but it might just be another loan. You know, see you later on for a loan for a bit, because I'm sure he's on a canny wage as well. Certainly for the level he would be going at. Yeah, it's quite high, like so.
Next one is from Chris Curry that says, what do you lads think about Matty Longstaff being released? It seems a shame. Wish Howe had come in when he was in and around. I reckon he'd have improved him and made him into the player we'd hoped for. If I'm being honest with you, I was never really convinced by Matty. Of course, he came in, he had a couple of decent appearances, obviously scored the goal against Man United, a winner against Man United, wasn't it? I was just never convinced. I just don't think he looked like a Premier League player.
Well, I agree with the point of saying it's a shame, because it is a shame. It would have been nice if it had have worked. I think this might sound silly what I'm going to say, but physicality-wise, I worried for him because he's very little. Now, there's many fantastic little players, right? So that might sound silly, but he is little. He was small. And physicality always worried us. I did think he was a little bit unlucky in one time in his career at us where he didn't play for weeks and weeks, and then he played Man United away, and then didn't play for weeks and weeks, and he played Chelsea away. Yeah. And I was like, Jesus, give the lad, like, he's coming in to play games here, but you're giving him the big opposition games, you know. So I did feel for him there, like, but injuries then haven't helped either. So it's been a multitude of a lot of things, like. But I probably agree with you in regards to I was never, even when he scored against Man United, it was a romantic story that you had them both playing in midfield. I get it all, but I didn't really think he'd ever be it, you know. So. Similar
to when we've had players like sort of Armstrong and Campbell,
yeah.
Those sort of build really like small lads that have got talent.
It's obviously harder playing up front.
More than just talent to be a Premier League footballer.
100%. I mean, there's the two you mentioned there, obviously Armstrong and that were strikers, and at the time we were in a good side. We weren't a good side, and you've got a lad up front who's the size of this bottle, literally. Like, it's tough. It's going to be tough hard work for you, like, you know. And I just feel the same with Matty. I know it's a totally different position, but, you know, there's no question there was a player in there. But I just felt injuries, the team around him at the time. There's a good point about how maybe if he had come in earlier,
there was a lot of players that, like, under Bruce, that didn't really get I'm not going to say necessarily a fair chance, but didn't get the chance to improve and learn and adapt as a player under the likes of a manager like Eddie Howe. You look of Matty Longstaff, you look at Lewis at left back. He's another one.
Yeah, and that hasn't still worked, has it, at all now? No,
obviously, injury hasn't helped with him.
Yeah.
But he's a player that was brought in once again. Did Rafa buy him?
You what, sorry?
Did Rafa bring him in?
Bring in who?
Jamal Lewis.
No, Bruce did.
Was it Bruce?
No, it was Bruce, yeah.
So we brought him in, though, but he came with... Did we get him from Norwich?
He came with a good rep, you know what I mean? Again, reputation.
And it just never worked?
No, it didn't. I think he had... I remember it was funny enough, actually, we beat West Ham the first game of the season. Was it 5-4-1 or something? 5-1? Remember, that was when my glasses snapped and everything. I was mortal drunk. Remember on that bar?
West Ham
away.
Was that
Hendrick scored. Wilson scored. I think we beat them 3 or 4, whatever it was. Lewis was excellent, really good, and it looked like the left back that I've been crying out for years. You know why I like Target so much, actually, when he came on the first on the loan stint. You know, willing to get forward, look good on the ball, and was driving forward, and never really picked up from that one game. Really, was found out an awful lot of times actually defensively, but. Listen, it's football, right? You know, not every single signing is going to work, is it? It just doesn't. Not everyone's going to work out. You know, you look at De Bruyne going to Chelsea. You know what I mean? Yeah. Absolute nightmare. Becomes the best player ever at Man City. It's football's a funny game. Sometimes it doesn't work at certain clubs, you know. But
I'm going to end it on this one, okay? Because we've been going nearly an hour. So we'll end it on this one. Thanks everybody who has joined us tonight. Like I said, just like the video, it means a lot to us. And become a subscriber. It costs you absolutely nothing to do that. Obviously, we're back up and running. We'll be back every week now. You'll start to see more videos creep through as well. So little mini videos and podcasts. You may have saw the news that we'll have Andy Sixsmith joining us as well. So Andy will have his very own Newcastle United podcast as well. And that'll be starting towards the end of the summer, just before the Premier League season starts. And he will be interviewing a number of guests, and that's both fans, sports personalities and whoever we can get on board with Andy. So I'm looking forward to that one. So we'll end it on this question. Also, sorry, if you want to become a member as well, it's just $2.99 a month to do that. Helps us out massively. You get access to the Telegram group as well. And as always, the Telegram group is busy even right the way through the summer when there's no football. I think it just keeps everybody grounded and entertained in that group. So last question is from Simon. He says, what do you make of Joselu being a Real Madrid player? He's a player that used to get it from the people behind.
Constantly get it. See, I used to defend him to the hilt, and it's a funny one this year. I was talking about. I will get back to the question, I promise. Chris Wood. Someone talked about Chris Wood yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And was still like, really waxing up about how much they liked him and blah blah blah. And I says, I bet you were one of these that slagged off with Joselu though. And they were like, "Oh, you were shite." And I'm like, "No," because I didn't think Joselu was a bad player. I never thought that. Listen, he didn't have any pace. That was a problem. But he was in a bad team.
He was a lone striker for a lot of the time.
He was a lone striker in one of the worst footballing teams. Whether you like Rafa or not,
for a team that couldn't get the ball out the one half.
That's it. There you go.
Twice a game, I think we used to do.
What are you expecting him to do? I just find it mad. Now, what a story though for him. I mean, that is.
Did he start at Real Madrid? He did, didn't he?
I think he did. Way back when. Obviously, then went around the world almost to come back.
Literally,
it's a transfer that you would never ever expect. Like, it's a type of it happened on Football Manager or FIFA. You'd be like, what the hell's going on there?
If he had held out for another few weeks, he could have went to Saudi for twice the amount.
I don't think he'd mind, be having the opportunity. I mean, seeing him stand up there,
he took a pay cut as well.
Well, he had no surprises. Like to have that opportunity to play for them. He's probably not going to play very much. But no, it's incredible. There's the mask.
So we've always been fans of Joselu, and people might not have seen this, but that's been on the shelf since we had the studio. Sorry for the audio listeners. Just a description. It is the V for Vendetta mask, which became famous because of the two blokes that did the Joselu might score one, might score two. That one. So that's where that mask became famous, and that's been in the studio. So that's our little memory of Joselu, and that'll stick on that shelf. Don't worry about that, Joselu. You're always in our hearts, mate. But I'm chuffed to bits, me.
It's amazing. It's like one of your children going away, and just like, because he got so much shit, man, when he was here, and like to be fair, he was one that like I did really want to do well, a bit like a Joe Linton, where you're like, I really hope he does well. For all, isn't I criticize Joe Linton as well? But you want them to do well, and he was one that I thought, God, like, we just don't give him any service. And there was a few times where he missed some really good chances, but he was getting one every 100 minutes or something. It wasn't exactly. I watched Holland the other day. He missed 4 a few weeks ago, and I'm thinking, hey, it happens to the best, right? But when you're giving him one chance every 100 minutes or 200 minutes in our case, and people are on his back, I'm like, how are lads? But yeah, unbelievable story. Still can't quite believe it. He probably can't even quite believe it. So if he can't believe it, we can't either.
I just want to clarify: we're not saying Joselu was ever a world beater at Newcastle.
God, no. Jesus,
far from it. But unfortunately, he just did end up becoming a scapegoat.
Aye.
He wasn't as bad as Riviere.
No, he definitely wasn't. No. But that game, at the ground, you would think that.
Yeah.
But we had such a bad team, man. What chances of straight I got when you're playing football that's got 30% possession? You're in big trouble. Like, regardless how much you like Rafa or whatever, your striker's got problems if you're going to have 30% of the ball.
Yeah. 100%. Thanks everybody for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure, and thanks everybody who is listening back to the audio as well.
Thank you.
Obviously, you can't. If you listen to audio, go to YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, and then come back onto the app and give us a 5-star rating as well on whatever platform you're listening to the podcast, whether it be Spotify, Apple Music, or whatever the hell it is. As you probably already heard, you will hear a couple of adverts at the start of a podcast and the end of the podcast. If you don't like them, just skip them. It's fine. And just wait for the famous Always Smiling Faces podcast music. And that's when you'll have me and Decker in your lugs. It's been a blast. Thanks very much. See you later. Ta-ra.
Coming in your ears every week.